we're talking to Dawn about New Orleans, and I don't think we've talked to anybody about New Orleans, have we?
No, I don't think so.
No, which is surprising because it's, one of our both,
It's
we love the
such,
location, right?
I know, it's such a great city, and I'm dying to get back. I guess I shouldn't say dying. That's not a good word, but especially
Uh,
since they have so many traditions there, like the.
yeah, I'll be there in October, I think.
Oh, that's right.
No,
Yeah.
September. I'll be there in September. So, but maybe the top of September. So, because I think it's
And
the
you're
1st of
spending a couple
October
days
is
there,
Jazz
right?
Fest. Yeah. But I should spend,
Have
I
you
think I'm
figured
going to
out
be,
where you're staying yet?
no. I,
Do they have?
last time I was there, I stayed in a hostel, and I'm hesitant about those usually in a place like New Orleans because it's a party town. So the
Mm,
hostels are
right,
almost all party hostels, no matter what they say, no matter what their situation is.
right.
I did stay in one, which was fine. I met a great friend, Jackie, when I was there, and it was definitely a party hostel, but not too over the top. I mean, they had, they have group events, hostels usually do, and so they had like, you know, beer drinking, playing quarters and ping,
Oh, yeah,
you know,
right.
pong, whatever that is with the ping pong ball. Anyway, they were doing all that stuff outside. I like rarely went outside because I was like, I'm way too old for this whole
Yeah,
crowd.
right. Yeah, exactly.
And I'm going to bed early because I'm getting up early. So I missed all of that. But I will tell you that even though I mean, I met some wonderful people there, and I stayed in a room with 6 or 8 other women.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I usually do that. The first few times I did hostels, I was like a private room person. Like I'll stay in a private room. Now I don't do that. There's just very little point. But I met a woman about my age at breakfast. So that's one of the things I love about hostels is you go down to like the communal kitchen area and you cook and you start making your meals, and then
Oh,
people sort of
yeah.
come and go. And of course it's mostly older or younger folks there, but this woman was about my age, and she was telling me this story about the place in Canada where Amelia Earhart had taken off from.
Oh,
And
really?
they she had visited this airstrip like up in northern Canada in the middle of nowhere, and she was surprised that they hadn't, like, this little small town hadn't capitalized on that as being like a destination.
Yeah,
And
right. With that
um,
history. Yeah.
yeah, and I have this, like, I mean, we all do, this weird fascination with Amelia Earhart being like
Yeah.
a woman pilot at that time, as well as then she just mysteriously disappears.
Right, exactly. I know. And to this day, they're not 100% sure what happened or
Right,
all these
right.
theories. And
And
yeah,
so yeah, hostels just bring all that coolness.
that is
Things.
cool. So was it like near the French Quarter then, this
Well,
particular?
yes, we were like on the edge between like French Quarter and the Garden District. So it was just a couple of blocks to walk, and I would be right in the French Quarter, or I could hop on the trolley, like walk up a block and hop on the trolley, like walk down a block, I guess it was. Um, and that's actually how I met Jackie. Um, she was there doing a culinary thing. She was in
Oh,
college to do, can't think of the word, but like she wanted to run a hotel. Like I can't think of the hospitality. There it is.
yeah, hospitality,
There's the word,
right.
I wouldn't come to me.
Yeah.
And so part of this was a learning experience, visiting hotels and that sort of stuff, but also restaurants and food around that whole hospitality thing. So she was gone during the day, going to these amazing places like sugar factories and food restaurants, and
Oh,
I was
yeah.
just wandering around.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's
And
plenty to see wandering around New Orleans. I mean,
yeah, and we met because we would leave the hostel at the same time. So we get up in the morning and I would leave, and we were walking together, like one of us ahead or behind. And I think about the second day or third day, we just decided, like, hey, are you, we start talking
yeah.
as we walk. And then we just started meeting up before and after, and she was able to share all that. And turns out she's Vietnamese, but she was living in London at the time.
Oh my gosh.
But when I went to Vietnam a few years ago, she was back in Vietnam.
Oh, she
So
was? Oh my
yeah, so we were
gosh.
able to connect, and she showed me around town, and we went to see a performance. Anyways, wonderful. So again, another selling point for hostels.
No, it truly is, because you made a friend that,
Yeah.
who would know? You wouldn't have met that person if you hadn't have stayed in the hostel.
And I wouldn't know about this mysterious place in northern Canada that Amelia Earhart
Right,
was.
right,
I don't know the name of the
exactly.
town, but it's like it's always in the back of my mind. Like I need to figure out if I ever go
We
to
need to,
Canada,
yeah, we
yeah,
need
where
to look
that
that
is.
place up. I wonder
Yeah.
that.
So there's going to be a listener who's listening to us, and they're going to know, and they're going to message me and tell me. That's
Right,
what
they're
I'm
gonna
going to
tell
ask.
us, and maybe we'll get to talk to them. We can interview them since we
Yeah,
haven't.
that would
Yeah, I'm
be.
curious about the food. Did you hear so much about the food in New Orleans? And it's been a while since I've been back to New Orleans. I'd really like to go back.
Yeah, the food is amazing. I'm not a big fan of the Bourbon Street thing, so I stay away from there. I've done that when I was younger. I've definitely participated, but now I go for the art, the food, and the music. I go down to Frenchman Street and listen to the
Oh
music.
yeah, yeah,
I
right.
could I could literally just like walk up and down that street and
Oh yeah, and
for
there's
the
all
whole
kinds
night.
of local performers, and like
Mhm.
there was an older place where like the older musicians would go in, and you'd look at their hands playing those old upright pianos, and it was just amazing to me, like how they just keep doing it. And their hands are like, they all look arthritic, and it's
I was
amazing
there
the
for
music that
almost
just comes out of them.
2 weeks, and so I would walk just walk around and see people, and there's street performers, right? And so there's like
Yeah,
this little gaggle of them, and then over here there's another gaggle. And what I found fascinating is down on Frenchman Street in the late evening, sometime after dark, um, they would a couple people would start to play, and pretty soon it's all of those people. There was a whole
right.
mixture, like that guy who was playing with this group, then the other guy who plays with another group, and now they're having this little jam session.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I just like, my brother had visited me, and we just stood out there. I was like, this is heaven to me. Like I could just stand here and watch
Yeah.
this
Just hang
for
out.
hours.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Just be up a chair.
Yeah, just a total spectator. I love that part of the music. When it's like an interactive experience where
Right,
it's
right. And it just kind of happens. It's just free
naturally.
form.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
one guy comes along and brings his instrument and
Mhm.
yeah, joins it.
It's
That's
great.
great. Yeah.
Uh, and it was fun to see that they're kind of like all they're all friends, they know each other, and there was people hugging each other and talking and whispers, and people over here talking. It's just a fun people watching experience too. So
Yeah.
you don't realize how connected it all is, because it is really a small town.
Yeah, it really is. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. It's not very big.
perfect.
Okay. I think we have Dawn
Is
who's,
she
oh, that's
here?
her. Yep. And we'll let her in, and let's hear about New Orleans. Yay.
Yay. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Today we are talking with Dawn, who plays the flute and once ate frog's legs. she wishes she spoke Italian and would love to live in Tahiti for a year. She owns 15 suitcases, and her travel tip is roll your outfits up to save space. Very, very good. So today she's telling us about her trip or trips. I don't remember if she's been more than once to New Orleans. So thanks.
Yeah, the rolling of the clothes is actually my mom's tip. I haven't quite mastered that. She's a wonderful packer. I kind of throw things in the suitcase, so I end up with this huge suitcase that is really hard to take around. So I'm trying to learn from her. But I've been to New Orleans. I only went once. I went for my birthday, and I would love to go back. And so I wanted to talk to you about my trip to New Orleans. Now, I have an educational series, and I write it on my travels, my actual travels, and the things I do in my life. So that is one thing that I did. I wrote this book about my travels, and I spent a week there, and I spent it in the Garden District. And that's something that people need to, I didn't know that when I went there. There's different districts. There's the Garden District, the French Quarter. So I suggest to stay in the French Quarter, because we spent most of our time going there on the trolley, which was fun, but we should have been down there. But the one thing, no, actually I went twice. That is the most exciting thing that we did, that I highly recommend that you do, is we went into the bayou. And the first time we went, we rode on a jet boat. It only had about 6 people in it, I believe. And it was actually thundering and lightning when we went. And we had to hide underneath the moss-covered trees to wait for it to stop. And the guide, this is actually the guide, and he took the airboat up on this big pad of like grass. And he gets out and he's got this fish and he starts making this really weird noise. And all of a sudden you see these huge eyes coming up out of the water. And they were alligators. So there was like 4 of them and they were huge and they were only about 3 feet from me.
Ooh.
And he was feeding them. And these are actual pictures. So if you go into my website, you can see the actual pictures of our trips. And so while we were sitting there, you know, he was right next to me. He takes his cooler out and he hands me a baby alligator to hold. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I love doing stuff like that. So I'm like, okay. And so I was petting him and everything. And when I posted the picture, somebody said, well, do you know they bite, right? And I didn't even think about that when I was doing it because it was just so like, oh, wow. And so that was one of the most adventuresome things that we did. We went back and went on a bigger boat that was more relaxed. And so it's dependent on what you like to do when you're there. And so we kind of went through the bayou and got to see it in the bayou. It's beautiful. And there they also gave you a baby alligator to hold. But this one, they actually had the mouth taped.
Okay.
So that you couldn't bite anybody. You can go on tours where they're less adventuresome, but they're all very, very interesting. And there's another, the French Quarter. You know, everyone's always seen the pictures of the French Quarter.
Right.
And it's amazing. It's just beautiful. And there are jazz bands just on the side of the street. And you have to try their gumbo. Mm-hmm. And be careful of the drinks. They are very, very strong. Yeah. I tried one, I think it was called a hurricane, and I went in June and it's very humid. So if humidity bothers you or the heat, go like in the spring maybe or the winter. Mm-hmm. So it was either really hot and humid or it was pouring rain. You know, there wasn't quite a mixture of just calmness. But, you know, we tried the hurricane and I was walking down the street in the French Quarter and this man dressed up like a monster. He was all green. I don't know what he was, like a swamp monster. And so I couldn't even see who he was. But he says, that's going to make you sick, this drink I had. And I'm like, well, okay, yeah, whatever, you know. Right. He was right. It was so hot and the drink was so strong. So I just recommend if you're going to drink that, just be very careful because they are very strong. You know, the stuff is very strong there. But
it's easy to drink them because they're so sweet.
Yes.
And
yes.
and they're so cold and you're so hot. So you're just like, yeah, you're drinking it.
And then it just hits you and you're just like, oh. Yeah. But the swamp monster did warn me.
And they have those like slushy machines, like the Slurpee machine at 7-Eleven, but they're everywhere, right?
Yes. You go in the bars and they're just like, you know, it's no big deal. And so, so be careful with that.
Yeah. Because I think New Orleans is one of those places that you're allowed to wander the street holding your drink too, which is not a normal thing in the rest of the United States.
Yes.
So they'll give you a drink and you can just keep walking with it right outside of the restaurant.
Yeah.
So, lots of fun.
True. Yes. Yes, I love New Orleans. Oh, and the plantations. We went to the plantations.
Oh, okay.
We went to Oak Alley.
Mm.
And it's beautiful. Now we went to 2 different types of plantations. Oak Alley was very rich, and there was 200 slaves that had lived there and worked the plantation, but they were very upper class. And then we went to another one that was lower class. It was more of a working plantation. And I suggest that you do both. So you get a really good taste of the different cultures that were there in New Orleans. And the history was very interesting. And in the plantation, we were on the 2nd floor and there was a tall clock and they had just had the big flood. Well, they hadn't just had it, and they actually had the water line on the huge clock of how high the water had gotten inside the plantation. So you learned a lot about the history and how they survived all of that and how terrible that was.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. There was, when I was there last time, saw a lot of that post flooding. events and stuff. And they have, hurricanes, and they have there's a lot of trauma that happens in that part of the world. So it's,
Yes. Yes. And so, you learn about the Underground Railroad, and, but down in the French Quarter, it's jazz music, and it's pretty wild and fun. I was not there for the Mardi Gras, but in the Garden Districts, there was also an Aberdeen.
okay.
Is that what they're called? And that was just beautiful too. And we went to see that, and we saw a white alligator that was there.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's lots of things to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of different wildlife, right? Different alligators and that kind of stuff. And you're on the water, so there's so much, boat rides and swamplands and
Yes. And you have to go in there too. You have to go see it.
yeah. Oh goodness, there it is. I was just going to ask
no.
about the food. That's
I know
my
you
question.
got it. All right, we got to ask the food. We
Yes.
have to. New Orleans is known for the food. So tell us a little bit about your food experiences.
Something that you ate, your favorite thing.
Well, we tried frog's legs. I did not like them. I can tell you that right now. I did not personally like them. Tried the gumbo. Again, wasn't one of my favorites because I'm allergic to seafood, and I don't really like that kind of thing. But you did try it.
Okay. Did someone in your family like the frog legs? You said you didn't like it. I sense that maybe there was someone who did.
No, it's kind of a thing. I tried them once on an Alaskan cruise.
Mm-hmm.
I like to try different things. And
Sure.
so there was one of the cruises, there was actually a restaurant that was like that, except they actually had like the whole bodies of the animals in the soup,
Oh.
the eyes and everything. And so I had bread.
Yeah, me too. I had bread.
Yeah,
This is
no.
too much for me. I went to Arizona and tried rattlesnake one time, and they brought it on the tray with the skeleton.
Oh,
And it's like, I didn't need to see that.
No.
I don't like to eat things with eyeballs. Yeah.
Right.
Good, but I tried it, okay?
Good for you, Dawn. Well, our timer went off, and we still had so many questions. It sounds like you had a fantastic time.
Oh,
Saw
absolutely.
some amazing things in New Orleans. So thank you so much for sharing your stories, Dawn. And for everyone else, we started a Patreon account so you can help support us. The link for that is in the description below. We will put some descriptions so you can check out Dawn's book and other books that she's done in our description also, and continue to travel with us through real stories from real people. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dawn.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.